The West Philippine Sea, a vast expanse of water, holds immense strategic importance. It is a vital maritime crossroads, a bustling hub of international shipping. The sea is rich in resources, including oil and natural gas, and crucial for global trade, facilitating the movement of goods across the world. Once a shared resource, sustaining livelihoods and fostering cooperation, it's now a flashpoint of geopolitical rivalry, a region fraught with tension and competing interests. This is largely due to China's sweeping Nine-Line Claim, a controversial demarcation that asserts its historical rights over a significant portion of the sea. This claim clashes directly with the rights of its neighbors, especially the Philippines, who have long relied on these waters for their economic and food security. The dispute is about more than just territory. It extends far beyond the physical islands and reefs. It's a battle over sovereignty, the right to govern and control these waters, and the valuable resources that lie beneath the seabed. Ultimately, it's a challenge to the established rules of international order and the principles of maritime law. China's claim overlaps significantly with the exclusive economic zones of several Southeast Asian countries, creating friction and undermining regional stability. This directly challenges the Philippines' rights under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, an international treaty that defines the rights and responsibilities of nations with respect to their use of the world's oceans. These overlapping claims and competing interests have unfortunately led to confrontations at sea, raising the risk of escalation. One of the most notable incidents was the 2012 Scarborough Shoal standoff, a tense encounter between Chinese and Philippine vessels. This event pushed the Philippines to seek international arbitration, hoping to resolve the dispute through legal means. This is not a simple David versus Goliath story. It's a complex situation with many layers. The conflict is shaped not only by military power, but also by international law, strategic alliances, geography, and the ever-shifting landscape of global opinion. Despite China's considerable economic and military power, a straightforward victory in the South China Sea remains elusive, a challenge fraught with complications. Military might alone cannot secure its ambitions. Diplomatic solutions and adherence to international law are equally crucial. The ongoing struggle in the South China Sea is a critical test for the future of the Indo-Pacific region and the stability of the global order. China's navy dwarfs the Philippines, boasting aircraft carriers and advanced warships, while Manila's fleet is modest and outdated. Yet outright military action is unlikely. Such aggression would trigger global outrage, economic sanctions, and risk war with the United States. China relies on gray zone tactics, harassment and intimidation that stop short of open conflict, to assert control. But these actions only harden Philippine resolve and strengthen its alliances, while exposing China's reluctance to escalate. Military dominance can disrupt, but it cannot force the Philippines to surrender its claims or legitimacy. In this contest, brute force is too costly and too blunt to deliver the political victory China seeks. The Philippines' strongest weapon isn't a warship, but the 2016 arbitral tribunal ruling under UNCLOS, which invalidated China's Nine-Line. This legal victory affirms the Philippines' rights to its exclusive economic zone and exposes China's activities as violations of international law. While China rejects the ruling, it has become a rallying point for global support, cited by the US, Japan, Australia, and European powers. The dispute is now a matter of legal principle, casting China as a defiant outlier. Every Chinese blockade or harassment is not just aggression, it's a breach of a binding international judgment. The ruling gives Manila diplomatic leverage and moral authority, even without enforcement mechanisms. China cannot win in the court of international law as long as it ignores the ruling. Legitimacy, not just control, is at stake. And here, the Philippines holds the upper hand. The Philippines' greatest strategic asset, a cornerstone of its national security, is its robust and expanding network of alliances, a web of partnerships forged in shared interests and mutual defense. This is especially true of the Mutual Defense Treaty with the United States, a bedrock agreement that has shaped regional security for decades. Washington has made unequivocally clear that any armed attack on Philippine forces operating in the South China Sea would automatically trigger U.S. defense commitments under the treaty, a red line that cannot be crossed. This commitment serves as a powerful deterrent against any potential Chinese escalation in the region. This alliance effectively levels the playing field, providing a crucial security umbrella. It allows Manila to assert its sovereign rights and interests in the contested waters more forcefully and with greater confidence. Beyond the U.S. alliance, the Philippines has also significantly deepened its strategic ties with Japan, Australia, and key European powers, all of whom strongly support freedom of navigation in the South China Sea and uphold the legitimacy of the 2016 International Court ruling. Regular joint exercises, coordinated patrols, and transfers of military equipment and technology have substantially strengthened Manila's defense capabilities and fostered a growing regional consensus against coercion and unlawful maritime claims. Even other claimant states, such as Vietnam, are actively exploring avenues for increased cooperation with the Philippines on maritime security. This steadily growing coalition effectively isolates China diplomatically on the international stage. It also reinforces the fundamental principle that the South China Sea, like all oceans, is governed by the established rules of international law. Manila's network of alliances ensures that it is never alone in defending its interests, ultimately making it a far more resilient and capable opponent than its relatively modest size might initially suggest. The vastness of the South China Sea, over 3.5 million square kilometers, makes total control nearly impossible, even for China. China's artificial islands are isolated and vulnerable, while the disputed features are much closer to the Philippines, giving Manila a logistical edge. Maintaining a constant Chinese presence far from its shores is costly and unsustainable. Filipino fishermen and Coast Guard missions persistently challenge China's claims, undermining its narrative of control. Geography enables the Philippines to resist through proximity and local knowledge, making Chinese dominance tenuous. The region's choke points, like the Strait of Malacca, are vital to China's trade and energy vulnerabilities that force Beijing to act cautiously. In a conflict, these choke points could be closed by U.S. and allied forces, threatening China's economic lifeline. Geography, as much as power, limits China's ability to achieve lasting dominance. The Philippines has mastered the battle for global opinion, using transparency and media to expose Chinese aggression. Dramatic footage of Chinese ships harassing Filipino vessels has shaped a powerful narrative of a small nation standing up to a bully. This imagery resonates worldwide, putting China on the defensive and damaging its reputation. International condemnation, backed by public evidence, isolates China and complicates its foreign policy ambitions. The Philippines' media strategy builds global support and deters further escalation. China's actions in the South China Sea undermine its efforts to be seen as a responsible global leader. In the court of public opinion, legitimacy matters, and the Philippines consistently wins this front. Every documented act of aggression raises the diplomatic and reputational costs for Beijing. The Philippines' goals are concrete and defensive, focused on safeguarding what they already possess and ensuring the well-being of their citizens. Their objectives are not about expansion or aggression, but about preservation and security in a complex geopolitical landscape. Protecting its exclusive economic zone, which is vital for the nation's economic stability and resource management. Fishing grounds, which are the lifeblood of many coastal communities and a crucial source of food security for the country. And energy resources, essential for powering the nation's growth and ensuring its energy independence in a volatile global market. As defined by international law, providing a framework for peaceful resolution and upholding the principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity. This is a matter of national pride and survival, deeply ingrained in the Filipino identity and essential for maintaining the nation's dignity and self-respect. Uniting the country in resistance against any perceived encroachment on its sovereign rights and territorial claims. Manila's aim is not to defeat China militarily, a recognition of the disparity in military strength, and a commitment to peaceful means of conflict resolution. But to uphold its rights through legal and diplomatic channels, reinforcing the importance of international norms and the rule of law. And preserve the status quo, seeking stability and predictability in the region through dialogue and adherence to established agreements. China's ambitions are far broader, encompassing regional dominance and the projection of its power across the South China Sea. To turn the South China Sea into a Chinese lake, effectively controlling vital shipping lanes and asserting its authority over the entire region, secure strategic advantages, positioning itself to influence trade routes and exert military pressure on neighboring countries, and control resources, gaining access to valuable oil, gas, and mineral deposits that lie beneath the seabed. But these goals violate international law, undermining the established legal framework and challenging the principles of fairness and equity, and the rights of multiple neighbors, infringing upon their sovereignty and threatening their access to vital resources and fishing grounds, making them illegitimate in global eyes, facing widespread condemnation and diplomatic pressure from the international community. For China to win, it needs to reshape the existing order and establish its dominance in the region. It must force not just the Philippines, which has been at the forefront of resisting China's claims, but all claimants and the world to accept its unilateral actions and disregard for international norms, to accept its dominance, a future where China dictates the rules of engagement in the South China Sea. A nearly impossible task, given the widespread opposition and the inherent challenges of imposing its will on a global scale. The Philippines' defensive posture, focused on protecting its sovereign territory and maritime rights, is more sustainable and easier to justify, resonating with both its own citizens and the international community. Both domestically and internationally, garnering support from allies and partners who share a commitment to the rule of law and peaceful resolution of disputes. China's expansive aims are its greatest weakness, stretching its resources and straining its relationships with other nations, requiring a level of coercion that is difficult to maintain in the face of growing international resistance and condemnation. It cannot easily apply, ultimately limiting its ability to achieve its ambitious goals in the South China Sea. Economic ties between China, the Philippines, and the world act as a brake on conflict. The South China Sea is a conduit for over $3 trillion in trade annually. Disruption would devastate all parties, including China. China's economy depends on stable sea lanes and global markets, making war a self-defeating option. The Philippines, while wary of Chinese pressure, also values trade and investment and has diversified its partners to reduce vulnerability. China is cautious not to alienate Southeast Asia, its largest trading partner bloc. Economic interdependence encourages restraint and dialogue, not escalation. A win that cripples the Philippine economy or sparks regional conflict would harm China's own interests and ambitions. The web of economic ties ensures that open war is an unattractive and unlikely path for both sides. A clear Chinese victory over the Philippines in the South China Sea is a strategic illusion. Military and economic might alone cannot secure China's sweeping goals. The Philippines wields decisive advantages in law, alliances, geography, and global opinion. The 2016 tribunal ruling, U.S. defense commitments, and a growing coalition of partners give Manila enduring legitimacy and deterrence. Geography and public scrutiny make sustained Chinese control costly and contested. Economic interdependence raises the price of conflict for all. By simply refusing to yield and upholding its rights, the Philippines can deny China the victory it seeks. The South China Sea struggle is a long-term stalemate, where resilience, law, and alliances can thwart even a superpower's ambitions.